Hello, I'm Vern Barnett, and I am very happy to introduce my very good friend, David Nelson, who has created a long-running series called Vital Conversations. David, what are vital conversations?
Well, vital conversations are vital. That is, they're essential to life. And they are a conversation where people intentionally speak their wisdom, their truth, their opinion, and other people intentionally listen to their words. And it creates a conversation. What is probably unique about vital conversations is what Vern, you gave us a quote that I just cherished, that the purpose of a vital conversation is not to win an argument, but to win a friend and to advance civilization. So it's a conversation which is not have as its goal some type of compromise or consensus or agreement. It has as its goal to create a deeper understanding between the people that are present. It takes at least two to have a conversation, although I have internal conversations as well, but usually two or more for people to better understand them. That's the goal, not to agree.
Well, when did you start this?
Well, I'm told by you that in 2002 was the first one, and I would agree to that. That was in your home office, and we had a group that discussed the Karen Armstrong book, The Battle for God. I'm not sure, I don't think we started on a regular basis, but I know that by 2007, and ever since then, every month on the second Wednesday at 1 o'clock, we have had a vital conversation. We met for years, and we still meet at the Mid-Continent Public Library, Antioch branch, which is in Gladstone. During the heart of COVID-19, we met on Zoom, and now we meet in a hybrid manner so that we will have about the same number at the library sitting around the table in a room I jokingly say they built just for us, but it really is a room which is very, very visible as everybody walks into the library with glass walls so that people see us. But we also have as many people on Zoom, and they're from Chicago and California and Seattle, Washington. And we're thrilled that it involves people not only in Greater Kansas City, but people around the globe.
Well, you mentioned the vital conversation setting in the library. Um, who else might be involved in sponsoring these?
Well, it's sponsored by CRESS, our organization, the Center for Religious Experience and Study. The Greater Kansas City Interfaith Council is a co-sponsor, and Mid-Continent Public Library is a co-sponsor. And the Human Agenda, which is my little coaching organization, is a sponsor as well. And we welcome other people to attract people to come to it too, to be aware of it.
But usually you pick out a book. What are some of the books that uh, the participants may be talking about? Do they have to read it ahead of time in order to attend?
No, they don't have to read it. I always encourage people to read it if they can, but people don't have to read it. And in fact, many people have said that they do not have the time to read some of the books, but they really appreciate the conversation anyway. Let me just give you a little bit of an example of some of the books that we have had. Um, we've had your book, Thanks for Noticing, which has been one of my favorite books. I use it in a variety of ways to learn not only about sonnets, which I didn't know anything about, but about poetry, about religion, about human sexuality, all sort of coming together. I've got a partnership with a library in Estes Park, Colorado, and they have given us some of the books. This one on The Mountains Sing was a book about Vietnam, a novel about the Vietnam War from a Vietnamese perspective. We had Zen and Happiness by a friend of ours, which was very, very interesting and fascinating. we've done Gunfight, which is a history of the NRA and how it's a Ryan Bussey, who is also a graduate of Bethany College in Lynchburg, who lives up in Montana, his battle against the industry that radicalized America. And of course, we have local authors. One of my favorites is a book that I see behind you all the time because you helped him to edit it, but the book by Alvin Brooks, his life story. Those are an example of the type we've had.
And you often have the authors participate in.
If possible, I try to get authors. And one of the things that Zoom has made possible is that that's much more possible, because I couldn't get Brian to drive to Kansas City, but I could get him to turn on his computer and visit me. And we've gotten other authors that way. And some authors actually prefer to do it from their home. Bill Timaeus preferred to be at home the last time we had him on. And we're going to have an author, a young Muslim poet who teaches here in Kansas City. I think she will actually be from her office this in March, the Vital Conversation in March. And but we can have them either place.
Well, how do you help people prepare for the sessions if they want to without reading the book?
Well, actually, I didn't do a very good job at first. I just sort of assigned the book. But for the last almost 10 years, I have been preparing a sheet I call quotations and questions. And I take quotations from the book, from the poems, from whatever is in the book, and then I write questions so that they can study that. And I try to send that out a week early so that people can read those. If nothing else, they can read those quotations and think about those questions. And I almost always begin with a releasing conversation where each person shares something about themselves in some way. For example, I'm thinking that for this book of poetry by Aisha next in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have each person read or say for memory one line from a poem that says something about them. And so I'm going to introduce myself by saying, my name is David Nelson, and a poem that says something about me begins, "'Twas battered and scarred in the auctioneer," which is a poem that my dad treasured and used often in his preaching. And I treasure that poem too.
Say a little bit more about OWL.
Well, OWL technology is something that's pretty special. It's actually, I could have had it here in front of me, but it actually looks about like an owl and is about as big as an owl. And it makes possible, we can set it in the middle of a room, and when somebody is talking, the camera turns and focuses on that person so that we can have a hybrid conversation where half the people are around the table and half the people are on a screen like you and I are on as we talk on Zoom. What happens with the OWL is that people can communicate and see and really have the kind of connection that we want to have in a vital conversation. Without OWL, it feels very distant. And I did a couple of vital conversations in a hybrid way without OWL, and it just wasn't worth it. So I bit the bullet and spent more money than I probably should have spent, but I purchased the OWL technology because several groups that I'm a part of own it, and it really is a way to enhance conversations, which are both on Zoom and in person.
I find it quite amazing. David, is there a dress code?
Yes, you have to be covered from your waist up. I actually, when you come to the library, you just whatever you would wear to the library. But I think that's a great question, because I think people are getting used to the casualness and like for right now, I've got a pair of sweats on the bottom, but I wouldn't wear that into the library, but I would wear it when I'm on Zoom. But no, there is no specific dress code. I sometimes try to dress in a way that might be appropriate for the work. For example, I wore some beads when I was talking to Joshua, because he talked about he sees this as a habit. I will sometimes wear a shirt with no collar because it's more of something that I like to wear when I do a public speaking. I've also been known to wear a tie at a time or two, but that's pretty rare. But
Uh,
anybody can come anyway.
how do they find out about this? How do they preview your um, uh, introductory material and your passages from the book?
Well, the best way is to write to me at humanagenda@gmail.com and get on a list so that they can receive it. I think one of the things that I am certainly welcome to trying to expand is getting places where I can make it more public. Your email, your website at Cress is one of the greatest resources, but I'm hoping we can get it. Sometimes the Greater Kansas City Interfaith Council has promoted them. You have promoted them on the Cress webpage. For a while, I sent some things into a local paper, and we got it in. Even I've had a couple of Vital Conversations, even in the Kansas City Star in the upcoming book clubs, but there hasn't been a consistency in that. So if any of you that are listening to this have a way of getting the word out, I would certainly welcome it. But the easiest way is to write me at humanagenda@gmail.com, and you will get mailings in your email.
David, is there anything else you would like to say about Vital
Well,
Conversations?
I just want to say that I have enjoyed so much having these Vital Conversations. And some of the books I would never have read had it not been for somebody saying, hey, I would like to have a Vital Conversation about that. But I value diversity. I value different world religions. I value people that have something to say. So I'm always open to suggestions, and I would welcome anybody who's listening to this to come and join a Vital Conversation. I will try to engage you, but even if you don't say anything and just choose to pass, you will be deeply appreciated for being a part of a Vital Conversation, where the purpose is not to win an argument, but to win a friend and to advance civilization.
Thank you, David.